So the brother asks me to share a proof that Jesus is God. Very well, I will. Here's the proof. A clear proof that Jesus is God from Revelations 22, verse 12. Behold, I am coming quickly, and my reward is with me, to render to every man according to what he has done. I am the Alpha and the Omega, the first and the last, the beginning and the end. According to Islam, who is the first and the last? What? God. Jesus calls himself the first and the last. So who is Jesus calling himself?
He's calling himself God, but using that context, using the Quran to...
Do you want to come round and talk? Looks like he wants to talk.
Well done, mate. Well done.
So what's your name?
Adam.
How you doing, Adam?
I'm good.
So what was your point? What was your response?
So the response is, if you're going to use the Quran to find the terms of the Bible,
Yep.
it's like it says that Satan is all cursed, yeah?
Yeah.
In Galatians, it says Satan redeemed us from the curse, and because he redeemed us from the curse, he became a curse, yeah, like all cursed. So if Satan is all cursed and Jesus became all cursed as well, it doesn't mean that they're the same people.
Okay, can I reply? Right, so your argument is fallacious because you think that I've used the Quran to prove that Jesus called himself God, right? That's not true. Jesus calls himself God in Revelations 22, where he says, I am the first and I am the last. That is not a Quranic idea. Let me finish, Adam. In Isaiah 48, God speaking says, listen to me, O Jacob, even Israel, I am he, I am the first, I am also the last. So it is an Old Testament title of God, that God is the first and God is the last, and Jesus is taking that Old Testament title and applying it to himself. What we have in the Quran is that the authors of the Quran are stealing the divine titles of Jesus that are rooted in the Old Testament and applying them to Allah. Now, sorry?
Quran isn't created and
It does have an author.
it wasn't created, never created.
The Quran is created.
It's not.
It's not from God.
It's revealed from God, but not created by God. It's revealed.
Well, I don't believe that it's created.
Yeah, well, it's not created.
Sorry, let me rephrase. I don't believe that it's from God, so for me, it's created.
Okay, but
And there's evidence that it's created. Would you like to hear the evidence that it's created?
Luke, let me just ask
Well, you made a claim.
yeah?
The Arabic language, how old is it?
Arabic language is very, very old. It's like at the time of Shem.
The Arabic language is less than 2,000 years old.
No, it's older than
We can see the historical development of the Arabic language. It evolves linguistically. And here's a proof that the Arabic language evolves linguistically, because the Quran, Muslims laud the Quran as having influenced the grammatical norms of the Arabic language, which means that the Arabic language evolved because of the Quran.
Yes, but it was
Thank you, yes.
old. It's old. There's different types of Arabic, and the classical Arabic has never it's still the same as since then. But
Where's your evidence that
different
ancient
types
man
of
spoke Arabic?
the ancient man spoke Arabic. Have you heard of the Moabites? From the time
I'm
of,
asking your evidence, yes.
yeah, it's my phone's
Go on,
dead.
where's your evidence that ancient man spoke Arabic?
My phone's dead, but the ancient man at the time, it was created by Hashem. I don't have.
That's a claim. Where's your evidence that ancient man spoke Arabic? All you're doing is you're using one claim to back up another claim. I'm not asking you to give me a different claim. I'm asking you to give me evidence that ancient man spoke Arabic. Because if you can't, what we do see in the development of the Kufic script into what we call classical Arabic is a development of a language that is not recorded before we see evidence of it. And it emerges out of the Syriac language. For instance, I think the word Tor, there's a surah in the Quran called mountain, isn't it? Correct? It's called Tor, is that correct? Tor. T-O-R. Yeah, there is. Do you know? Tor. Surah al-Tor. And that means mountain, doesn't it? Right, now tell me what the Arabic word for mountain is.
I cannot actually tell you, but I know something.
Right, let me tell you something that you might not know.
Okay.
The word Tor is actually a Syriac word for mountain. The Arabic language emerged out of Syriac. It is not an ancient language, and therefore the Quran is created. It is not eternal because the Arabic language is not eternal.
But do you know there's different types of Arabic languages?
And which Arabic language is the Quran written in?
It was written in the Hijazi Arabic dialect.
Right, which emerged when?
When the Prophet Muhammad was in the Prophet Muhammad was in Mecca, he received the revelation.
No, Kufic script exists before that.
Yes.
There are Kufic Arabic script before Muhammad, but it doesn't go right back into history. In other words, the Kufic Arabic script is a development of who? The Nabateans. And they used a Syriac language.
It's below the English as well.
Right, verily we have sent it down as an Arabic Quran in order that you may understand.
Yes.
Now that means that demonstrates that Arabic was not the original language of humanity. Because for it to be sent down in that Arabic means that Allah is making a choice about a language that is developed. And as it has developed, we can see where it developed from, and that's Syriac. So what's your proof that ancient man spoke Arabic?
Because in the old times, there were different types of Arabics. There were different Arab groups, like the Moabites, and there were groups inside different spaces in Arabia where they spoke different types of Arabic. And it's still Arabic, but just some words are different, some words are the same. You understand?
Do you understand the difference between a claim and an evidence?
I don't have any evidence.
Yeah, exactly. You don't have any evidence because all you're doing is repeating claims that you've heard in the masjid. Adam, you need to start thinking. You need to start thinking deeper because the masjid is filling your head with lies, bro. Arabic is not an ancient language. It is a development of the language of the Nabateans, based from Petra. And we can see that because the Syriac script, which is an Aramaic script, which is the language of Jesus. You know, Jesus spoke Aramaic, right? Right. So Aramaic is a Syriac language, and it develops into what we know as Hebrew today, and Arabic. In other words, Arabic is not an ancient language, it evolved. And if the Arabic language evolves, that means that the Quran is not eternal.
Were also Arabs, so therefore they would speak in the
Sorry?
same language. The Canaanites.
The Canaanites were Arabs. No, they were not.
They were.
That's another claim. Where's your evidence?
If you research it, it was.
Where's your evidence?
They were a Semitic group and they were Arabs.
Your
They came
problem,
before the Israelites, they were Arabs.
you're not even Arab. Where are you from?
From Morocco and Iran.
North what?
Morocco.
Morocco. You're probably a Berber. You've been Arabized, bro, through Arab imperialism that came in the 7th century, and you've been brainwashed into thinking that Arab culture is superior to the Berber culture. It's not. Let me be clear. Let me be very clear. Not everyone who's Semitic is Arab. That is some kind of bullshit ideology that comes from Arab imperialism.
It came from
The
there.
Semitic groups, Semitic languages predate the idea of the Arab. The Semitic language and Semitic culture is just a reference to the Orient and to certain languages that have certain kinds of script and linguistic families. It doesn't mean blood. So you are inventing this idea that Canaanites were Arabs. That's not true, because you believe, don't you? You believe that the Arabs are the descendants of Ishmael, correct?
The Arabs are the descendants of Ishmael.
Correct?
Yeah.
Right. Well, if Arabs, as you believe and I believe, are the descendants of Ishmael, well, that's a separate bloodline from Canaanites. Canaanites weren't descendants of Abraham. Are you trying to argue that Canaanites were descendants of Abraham?
There are different types of Arab groups, like I said.
You've not answered my question. Are you arguing that Canaanites are descendants from Ishmael?
Yes.
Right. Okay. Can you evidence that?
Yes. The
Go on, then.
evidence is that Ishmael in the Bible, when he left Sinai, he went to Mount Paran. Mount Paran is pretty much in the Canaanite kingdom.
That doesn't prove anything. That doesn't prove a damn thing. All you're doing is making one claim after another claim. You've got to learn the difference between claims and evidence.
The Moabites, which are Semitic group, also have the same DNA.
How about this? There's no such things as Arabs. There's no such things as Arabs. Arabs are just a category of Moabite.
Moabites
Is that wrong?
Arabs.
Is that wrong?
Yeah.
Right, why?
Because Moabites are a group of Arabs.
You've got to evidence that. You can't claim it.
Yes, because
Evidence
at the
it.
same time, there were different types
Maybe
of
someone can help you.
I don't have any evidence.
Exactly, you don't have any evidence. You're just making up claims.
Yes, I don't have my foot died.
That's not my problem, bro. If you're going to make a claim, you've got to have evidence. So let's return to a topic that you can handle, Adam. Okay? Because no offense, bro, you don't understand the difference between a claim and an evidence. All you're doing is, I've made one claim, and then to prove my claim, I'm going to make another claim, and then to prove that claim, I'm going to make another claim. That proves nothing. Okay? Now, the reality is, in terms of the Arabic language, we can see its development. Here's the evidence, right? Note the difference. Would you agree with me that the classical Arabic that we find in the Quran today is not the same or identical to the Kufic Arabic in which it was first written at the time of Muhammad? Yes. So is that not proof, therefore, that the Arabic language evolved?
No.
Oh, it isn't. So if it didn't evolve...
Some groups have different types of Arabic, and some other groups have the same Arabic.
So is the classical Arabic of your Quran identical to the Kufic Arabic that was seen by Muhammad's own eyes? No. No, it wasn't. Stop lying. Why? Because the marks that are made above and below the consonantal texts that to our untrained eyes look like little dots and dashes, those were invented later. They were put into the Quran later. In other words, the text of the Quran changed, ladies and gentlemen. And furthermore, as all Muslims boast, the Arabic language evolved because of the Quran. The Quran became a standardizing force about Arabic grammar. And Muslims are the ones that make that boast, not me. But that admission demonstrates that the Arabic language was evolving. And if the Arabic language was evolving, it wasn't an eternal language.
Maybe you should explain the word. They killed many Iranians to learn Arabic, but they couldn't make it.
Yeah, I mean, in Iran, they were just...
in our language, but
yeah.
we tried to get it off.
The Iranians were Arabized just like the Moroccans.
Yeah, and
you've got to free yourself from Arabization.
We were also done... the Romans,
decolonize your mind.
The Romans also done the same thing to Morocco. The Phoenicians done the same thing to Morocco. Every single group done it to Morocco, yeah?
And was it wrong?
Yeah.
Right, so was it wrong when the Arabs did it?
No, because the Arabs had two different types of...
Did you hear that?
The Arabs had two different
It wasn't wrong when the Arabs did it. It was it bad when the French did it?
Yes.
Was it good when the Arabs did it?
No.
So it was bad when the Arabs did it?
Did the Arabs kill anyone?
Yes, loads of people.
That's because there was wars, civil wars going on.
So
there.
does that justify the Arabization of Morocco?
If they're fighting the Arabs, then yeah.
There you go. In other words, if you're fighting the Arabs, it's okay for the Arabs to colonize you. That's what a colonized mind looks like. That's what Arabization looks like. Muslims in this park say I'm lying, that Arabization doesn't exist. This is what an Arabized mind looks like. If you're fighting the Arabs, it's okay for the Arabs to colonize
The
you.
Berbers were fighting each other, and then what happened is the Arabs would have stopped it by taking the land. They didn't do anything wrong.
You are a colonized mind. Let's actually tell you what really happened. The Arabs invaded lands that were not their own, and they persecuted the Berbers, whose land it was, until they stopped being Christian.
Oh,
That's actually what
the
happened.
Berbers were never Christian.
Yes, they
They
were.
were forced to be Christian, but they most of them never even accepted Christianity. They were mostly pagan.
Wrong.
Yes,
That's
they
a
were.
lie. He doesn't even know where his own people come
Berber
from.
mythology, yeah.
The Berbers were a tribe that migrated after their invasion of the Roman Empire. They came across the Ural Mountains, they came across Germany, they were Aryanized by the Aryans. They invaded France, they went down through Spain, and then they crossed over the Mediterranean, and they finally settled in the Kabul Mountains and in what is now called Morocco and Tunisia and Algeria. And then the Catholic Church, the Christian Church, converted huge swathes of them
Killing them.
to the Christian faith,
By murdering
though many of them remained Aryans. Now, then the Muslims come in the 7th century and destroy the church in North Africa by invading the Berbers. Now, was it violent? Was it wrong when the Christians persecuted the Berbers?
Yes, it was.
Was it wrong when the Muslims persecuted the Berbers?
Yes.
There we go. That's the process of decolonization.
Arabs, Muslims and Arabs.
Right.
You can't.
Any persecution is wrong. What's the
Great. Now we've established that any persecution is wrong. Does that mean we should condemn a holy book if it legitimizes religious persecution?
Yes.
Great. So you'll join me. Brilliant. So you'll join me in condemning the Quran, which legitimizes religious persecution, and condemning the Hadiths, which legitimizes religious persecution. Agreed?
Send me a verse.
Yes, there's a verse in the Quran that says religious persecution.
Great.
You get it?
Great. Yes. Let's look at it. So, what's your name, bro?
Yasin.
Yassine, welcome to the conversation. Right. You've asked me to show you a verse that justifies religious persecution.
Yeah.
Okay. And in the Hadiths, my argument is going to be that in the Hadiths and the Quran, it justifies. Are you a
I'm not
Quranist?
familiar with the hadith.
Are you a Quranist?
Quranist means like follow the Quran. Yeah.
That you reject Hadith?
No, I don't reject it.
Do you accept Sahih al-Bukhari?
Yes.
Do you accept Sahih al-Muslim?
Yes.
Great. And those are the Hadiths that we'll use. However, ladies and gentlemen, Yasin said he'll condemn a holy book if it justifies religious persecution. So, here it is. In Surah 9, 39, 29, it says this. Fight those who believe not in Allah, nor the last day, nor hold that forbidden which hath been forbidden by Allah and his messenger, nor acknowledge the religion of truth from amongst the people of the book, until they pay the jizya with willing submission and feel themselves subdued. Subdued.
Which verse?
That's Surah 9, 29. Firstly, my question to you, Yazin, is what are you commanded to do to the people of the book? It's a really simple question, guys.
2 minutes.
Okay, whilst they're having a confab, you have a confab. The verse says, fight against the people of the book until they believe what you believe. That's the first aspect of religious persecution. The second aspect is fight them until they pay the jizya and feel themselves subdued. Right, go on, what's your reply? What's your name?
I can't share that. It's secret.
Okay, fair enough.
His name is Dave. Let's go, Dave.
Dawood.
No. Anyway,
So that
you said 929, right?
Yeah.
929, religious persecution.
Yes.
I don't think you look at context. Because in 913,
Yeah.
it says, would you not fight a people who broke their oaths and determined to expel the messenger, and they had begun their attack upon you the first time?
their attack upon you.
Yeah.
So clearly,
that's self-defense.
not religious
Right, hold on one
persecution.
second. Hold on one second. Hold on one second. The group that it's talking about was the Jews in the Kaaba, was it not?
And Christian.
No, there were no Christians in the Kaaba.
No, not just
It doesn't say that.
No, this is what your hadiths and your commentaries upon that
Well,
surah
this is the
say.
Quran, so let's
Yeah.
stick to the Quran.
Right,
Yeah.
let's stick to the Quran.
Yeah, and as you can see, if you go back to 913, you can clearly find the context.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Let me give you, because he's saying that I am lying about the text.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying you've ignored the context.
Dawood, listen. Listen.
name is not that.
Dawood.
Anonymous.
Right.
Anonymous.
Dawood, listen. Now,
You ruined my image.
Dawood, listen. Yassine, listen. I'm going to read to you the commentary of Ibn Kathir. Do you know who Ibn Kathir is? It's a, you do. Who's Ibn? Tell your brothers. Who's Ibn Kathir? No, it's not hadith. Right. So let me. Wait. 1 second. 1 second, Dawood. One Dawood. 1 second, Dawood. Right. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to quote Ibn Kathir. Ibn Kathir is a Muslim classical commentator who is revered by Muslims, used by Muslims. This is what Ibn Kathir says about 929. Therefore, Allah has instructed the Muslims to fight. Everybody say fight. To fight the people and encourage them to do so, because they call the people to the religion they follow and cause a great deal of harm to people, as people may be deceived by them because of their being people of the book. In other words, Ibn Kathir is saying that because I am a Christian and I invite everyone to become a Christian, I may deceive people. And so Ibn Kathir is saying that Allah encourages these three to fight me so that I don't deceive any of you. Now let me ask you this question. Do you know better than Ibn Kathir?
No, probably not. But why did some Christians live with Muslims? Why were some Christians allowed to live with Muslims in certain societies?
Great.
Spain,
Let me address that
without
question.
getting killed?
Fair question. His argument is, he's asked a question. Well, he wants me to ignore your question, should I?
Why would you ignore that?
He wants to, there you go. So he's telling you he wants me to answer his question. There you go. You need to pay attention. So, ladies and gentlemen, you need to listen better. So, I'm going to answer that question. So, ladies and gentlemen, why did some Christians end up living with Muslims? Because Muslims invaded their lands and they didn't feel, I'm going to answer that, and they didn't feel that they wanted to leave, ladies and gentlemen. But that brings me on to the second aspect of 929 and about why this verse teaches religious persecution. Because the verse says that you must fight them until they pay the jizya and feel themselves subdued. Or, as some translators have it, feel themselves humiliated. In other words, the jizya tax is connected to the subjugation of Christians, that they become second-class citizens in an Islamic state.
Some of them stayed for hundreds of years documented.
As oppressed people,
But why?
because it was their land and they didn't want to leave. I literally have answered your question. Now he doesn't believe me, so I invite him to come with me. I invite you to come with me to a Coptic church. Let's ask the Coptic Christians of Egypt whether they felt oppressed under Muslim rule. Let's go together to a Syrian church and ask the Syrian Christians whether they felt oppressed under Islamic rule. Because they did. Let's ask the Chaldean Christians of Syria and ask to see if they felt oppressed under Islamic rule. Because the thing is, he says they don't. But I've spoken to the indigenous people and they are telling me that they are, ladies and gentlemen. So how would you like to reply to that?
Islam didn't work in Arabic
My
countries.
reply is that
Okay, your reply.
I've told you, right? I've given you the context. I don't know why you ignore
We
it.
have Christians.
You ignore
in
the
there.
context.
Arab
Right.
Christians.
Take it in holistically, right?
Islam was
Compare the two
right.
quotes.
It has
What
to
did they
be-
show you? Read 913.
Right.
Read 913.
Let's no. Two things. One.
You have to read 913.
No, we are.
You go back to 929 over and over again.
Right.
To
So
understand the
I'm
chapter,
going to give you
the entire chapter,
I'm-
not one verse.
I am going to give you the context to 913. It is that the Jews had made an oath not to have war against the Muslims. They apparently, according to the Muslims, broke that oath.
Which Muslims?
The Muslims that were following Muhammad at the time of Muhammad. Yes. And then Muhammad started fighting them.
All these Christians,
Didn't
every
they?
single Christian,
Right?
Again?
Didn't he?
all civilization.
Right? Now you're listening, Dawood.
No, I wasn't following.
Right?
Explain that again.
So I'll say it again, the context, because you really need to pay attention.
Some people became
Right? The context is that the Jews broke their oath to Muhammad and started fighting against Muhammad when he was fighting against the pagans in Mecca. And then Muhammad receives this verse justifying his fight against the Jews. Okay? But what? So that's the context of your context.
Yeah.
But the verse isn't read just to speak about those Jews at that time. Because what it says doesn't say fight those who break their oath. Listen, it says fight those who believe not in Allah nor the last day. So what are you as a Muslim instructed to do by 929? What are you instructed to do?
But look, so are you telling me, right? So look, you have two interpretations here,
Yeah.
two choices. One is that in the context of history, right?
Yeah.
It meant to fight the people who broke their oaths. Or two, it quite literally means international non-stop jihad. You don't see me fighting you here. So I don't
can't.
think the second one.
You can't because you don't have the power to.
Don't worry.
Right. So you say it's a dispute between me and you. No, it's a dispute between you and classical Islamic commentators. Let me give you the tasfir of Al-Sadi. Al-Sadi says, this verse says, the point of this fighting is so non-Muslims then turn over their wealth that is given in return for Muslims not fighting them and allowing them to stay amongst the Muslims, granting them safety for their lives and property. Sayyid ibn Musayyab, As-Suyuti, Zamakhshari, Ibn Kathir all agree with that point. Classical Islamic commentators are the ones arguing with you, not me.
No, you are.
Well, I'm quoting your classical
they're
commentator.
quoting one quote here.
Do you know
I'm
Al-Sadi?
also showing you the second quote.
Do you know Al-Sadi?
This is the thing I'm doing that you're not doing.
Do you know
You're
Al-Sadi?
You've talked.
Go on.
You've done this thing where you've gone to one quote, right? You've gone to one quote and looked at one quote, not at the context. I've looked at both.
Yeah.
I've looked at both 913 and 929. I've heard the same 929 argument over and over again.
Yeah.
So why is it so hard to understand, right? That if in context, if in 913, if this chapter says, like, you know, to fight the Jews if they've broken the oath, right?
Yep.
How can you then like take that one quote, right, which clearly like, you know, suggests fighting in a much more self-defense type, like, you know, how can you suggest that then like, you know, indicates that Muslims have to show religious persecution to all other religions?
Right.
You can't.
When you're ready.
You can't take that extension. It's a ridiculous
Right.
extension.
You know, so here's the problem, Dawood. Right? Yeah, here's the problem. Don't worry, I got stuck with Bob because somebody else called me Bob, so, you know, don't take it personally, right? But you can be called Bob if you want, right? But Dawood, the problem is, right, you're offering up your tafsir on 929 by saying it needs to be read in context of 913. I am offering to you the tafsir of Ibn Kathir, the tafsir of Al-Sadi, the tafsir of Sayyid ibn Musayyib, the tasfir of As-Sayuti, the tasfir of Zamakhshari, the tasfir, as I said, of Ibn Kathir. And now I'm going to give you another one, the tasfir of Qubti. Right, listen what he says. These verses are given as a general statement. Did you hear that? As a general statement, and the order to fight the people of the earlier revelations until they pay the jizya, until they pay the submission tax with a willing hand and are subject and are subdued, is also of general import. In other words, all of the great Muslim scholars that you now want to chuck under the bus are all telling you you're wrong. They're all telling you that this is a general teaching that calls you to fight the Christian because the Christian is not a Muslim. Right? Now, the point is, you are entitled to chuck them under the bus. And if you're willing to say that they are all wrong, then I will engage with your argument. But unless you are willing to say on camera that Samakshari was wrong, that Ibn Kathir was wrong, that Musayyabi was wrong, that Suyuti was wrong, that Ibn Kathir was wrong, that Qubti was wrong, unless you are willing to say that they are all wrong, then I think I'm on good grounds by believing their tasfir over your tasfir.
I'm not saying they're wrong at all.
Thank you.
I'm not saying they're wrong. I'm saying you've gone to one verse again. It's the one verse thing. Look, you can bring up the tasfir of 913 then. Bring the tasfir of all of those, all of those interpreters, right? On 913. Bring that up. What would that suggest? Bring up tasfir on the entire...
Well, you do it. You're the one making the argument.
Well, no, you've boasted about your amazing lists of many Muslim theologians
who have quoted 929 and given their understanding
amazing.
Of it. Brilliant. Thank you.
913 as well.
But do you disagree with them? Do you disagree with them?
No, because I'm saying...
There you go.
I'm saying you should go to 913.
So let's be clear. You're saying, Dawood, you're saying you don't agree with Qubti, who says that this is a command of general import.
Look, I'm saying that if you go to one verse, again, the one verse, my favorite thing on earth, look, one verse.
Well practiced by the Dawagandists.
What?
Carry on.
Okay, never mind. Yeah, if you go to one verse out of one chapter, you can't then make that as like a complete instruction to every Muslim everywhere. It can't be that. Because if that was the case, what would the same theologians have to say about the earlier verses? Which clearly don't suggest that.
Right, so Dawood, in reply to your comment, I have never said that every single Muslim should do this at every point in their life.
I'm not saying you say you should
right?
do it, but you're saying they
But
suggest
what I want to point out now is your duplicitousness. It's when you make a two-faced argument.
I know, but like,
right? I want to ask you very clearly, right? Qubti, in his tasfir of 929, says this: these verses are given as a general statement, and the order to fight the people of earlier revelations until they pay the submission tax with a willing hand and are subdued is also of general import. Yep. Do you agree or disagree with that statement?
Agree, and because if you look at
you agree.
Look at this. No,
Thank you.
Wait, look at the statement. Look at the statement. Earlier revelation. What's the earlier revelation? 913. Clearly.
No. The earlier revelation. The people of the earlier revelation. Listen carefully. It says fight the people of the earlier revelation.
The people
Who's
of the
that?
earlier revelation.
Who's the people?
You said
the Alim al-Kitab.
You said the earlier revelation. You said from
I'll hold my Quran.
Sure. You're in the verse 913. You said it was the Jews who broke their oath.
Yes.
The prophet. Yeah. How is that not the people of the earlier revelation?
You're not listening to Qubti, are you? Qubti says, and you've already admitted that you agree with it, so you've kind of exposed yourself. Listen, Dawood, listen, it says is of general import. Do you know what that means?
Yeah.
Of general import. What does that mean? Yeah, when something is of general import.
General instruction.
Yeah, it's a general instruction manual that's applicable to all applicable on a continuous basis, isn't it?
Yeah.
Thank you. So, Qubti, who you agree with, says that this passage about fighting the people of earlier scriptures is a general instruction to Muslims today.
But clearly, look, if you like your magnifying glass and zoom it onto Qutb's quote on this, right? And if you ignore what Qutb may have
You
said,
pull up quote for 913 from Qutb because that's your argument.
look,
It's not my job to help your argument. You do it.
You're like the expert with all these like theologians.
Why are you frightened to pull up his tasfir? Pull up his tasfir, see what he says. Why not? Why don't you just pull up tasfir of Quran?
Which one? How
Let's see if we can do it. Let's see with I'm gonna prove you wrong, but you can do it in 3 minutes. Well, maybe not 3 minutes. We're gonna pull up the tasfir for 913. And let's see if people and bearing in mind you're sunk now, right? Because you've agreed with Qutb. You've agreed. Let me ask you this question. Let me ask you: do you agree with Sadi, who says the point of this fighting is so non-Muslims then turn over their wealth that is given in return for Muslims, not fighting them and allowing them to stay amongst the Muslims, granting them safety for their lives and property? Do you agree with Al-Sadi that is what the verse means? What?
I don't think he is what it means. This specific one there, this one.
So you disagree with Al-Sadi?
Where's the mention of like money and stuff
You disagree with Al-Sadi?
on this quote? I think
It says it money. It's the money is the reference. Where's the money in 929? It's reference to the jizya. What's the jizya?
tax.
What's the tax connected to? Money.
The government.
So it's connected to money. So there you go. So it is connected to money. Yeah? The problem is, Dawood, is that you want to make Islam into something that it's not. And I think that is a good thing, because I think that you're better than your book. If you don't want to fight unbelievers because they're just Christians and Jews, then you're a better person than your book allows you to be. And that's a good thing. But now it's unfortunate that Yassine checked out of this debate.
But I actually didn't come in to discuss this. I watched one of your earlier videos about slavery, right?
Right?
And I was itching to respond. You claimed that Muslims...
So you want to close down this conversation?
Yeah, because I...
Hold on 1 second. I'm not saying I agree to close down this conversation. I just want to check that you want to close down this conversation.
Because I came into discussing else.
Yeah? Yeah, you burst into this conversation that he was having. So I want to point out in Sahih al-Muslim, Muhammad says, and I want to ask you if you agree with this or not. Right?
If I answer this, right, can we move on?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, I'll have a final comment, but then this is in Sahih Muslim. It says this: Muhammad speaking. I have been commanded to fight against the people until they testify that there is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is the messenger of Allah, and they establish prayer and pay zakat. And if they do it, their blood and property are guaranteed protection on my behalf, except when justified by law, and their affairs rest with Allah. Is Muhammad an example to you in that statement?
Where was this statement?
In Sahih al-Muslim, Hadith 36 and Hadith 33.
Not significant.
I'll read it again. This is Muhammad. He is saying, I have been commanded to fight against the people until they testify that there is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is the messenger of Allah, and they establish prayer and pay zakat, and if they do it, their blood and property are guaranteed protection on my behalf, except when justified by law, and their affairs rest with Allah. My question to you again is Muhammad an example to you in that statement?
If I was living in
7th century.
7th century Arabia, probably.
So you're saying that he's not an example for you today?
Yeah, because I'm not going to say.
Great, you're better than Muhammad. Well done.